Hey everyone, it's me, Coach B. Hope you're having a awesome day, and thank you so much for tuning into episode 1, or is it episode 0? I don't actually know how to label this episode, but here's what I know for sure. It's our very first episode of Breakthrough with Coach B, and whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this on your favorite podcast player, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning into this. I decided to, before we open the doors to all of the amazing guests that we have coming up, talking about all things to do with the Breakthrough method, I've decided that maybe it would be best for me to actually be the guest and be interviewed so that I can describe to you in a little bit more detail what the heck is the Breakthrough method, what is our Breakthrough Academy all about, what are all of the, why am I doing this, why now, et cetera, et cetera. And so I thought it'd be fun to start off by having our very first episode kind of set the stage and set the table, so to speak, for what you can expect in the coming months ahead as we start to unpack this methodology that really, at the end of the day, is designed for one simple purpose. That's helping you to work less while living and earning more. Now, I decided I would turn to two of my friends who have been running a podcast successfully in the Victoria real estate market now for a couple of years, Vincent, Baart, and Adrian MacLaren from the City Nest team at RE/MAX Camosun. And I find that they are a great combo. Adrian, like myself, is not afraid to ask the, dare I say, stupid questions. He's just very much a curious guy and likes to ask questions. And then Vince, of course, if you've ever met him or interacted with him, he's kind of a bit of a nerd. He loves to ask the very specific surgical questions. And I find that the combination of Adrian's sort of big picture question asking and Vincent's very targeted, specific question asking makes for a really three-dimensional conversation. So all that to say, I hope you really, really enjoy episode 0 or episode 1, the first episode of Breakthrough with Coach B. And if you do like it, make sure you subscribe wherever you're consuming this content, because we have a lot more coming down the pipe very soon, and I'm excited to share it with you. All right, everyone, please enjoy episode 1 of Breakthrough with Coach B. Let's go. So this is something that's very difficult for me to do, which is surrender control. But you guys are actually interviewing me on the very first episode of Breakthrough with Coach B. So I guess I'm going to slide into the guest seat.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. That's a great spot.
Take a seat.
Oh, wow. It turns out it's the same seat, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Braden, thanks for having us. And I think we'll start. We'll just get right into it. The first question on everyone's minds: what is the Breakthrough method?
And I just want to clarify, when you say on everyone's minds, you just mean like you guys, right? Specifically?
Well, yes, but I mean,
I've been wondering.
I'm guessing the episode title is going to be something about the Breakthrough method.
Yeah, that's
and this title of this and everything about it's going to be involving this project. So yes. I think whoever's clicking on this is probably going to be wondering.
Yeah, no, that's fair. So the Breakthrough method is built on a very simple belief that I have formed over, I believe 15 years now. I've been in real estate, half of which I was as a selling agent. The other half working in a brokerage capacity, and then of course as a business coach for almost a decade now. And this observation is really simple. The agents who tend to have the most success, not just in terms of deals and dollars, but also quality of life, often work in their sweet spot. And one of the ways that I like to describe people's sweet spot is imagine like a Venn diagram of 3 circles overlapping. It's the middle ground of these 3 circles that are: what are you good at? What do you enjoy doing? And what grows your business? And I find
like Ikigai is, sorry to interrupt, but is that kind of like the principle of Ikigai?
Yeah, I read a Jay Shetty book that he talked about Dharma in a similar way. Ikigai, the Japanese concept, they have a 4 circle. I think it's like, what does the world need? What could you get paid for? What are you good at? And something on what do you enjoy doing? So it's a very similar presence. And if you start to look through different cultures, which I have in researching for this program that we're creating, is that it really comes down to: what do you enjoy? What are you good at? And what moves the needle in your business? And that simple belief is if people spend more time in that area, not only will they be able to work less, but they'll actually be able to earn and live more. And just to say it very simply, like, it's hard to become world-class at something that you find annoying, draining, that you don't enjoy doing. Like if you're
Yeah.
watching this and you're setting up your open house signs and you're swearing under your breath about how stupid open houses are, and I can't believe what the time, like odds are that's not your sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. So, what would you say inspired you to
Yeah.
create
Like,
the
was there a
breakthrough method?
crisis? Was there something really bad that started this?
Yeah, was there a defining moment in
Oh
your
my gosh.
career
Well,
that where you were the bottleneck in your career? What
yeah.
was going on?
You know, it's funny. I would say that I've identified as a strengths-based perspective coach for a very long time. I've always found that leaning into what people's strengths are has just proven to me time and time again, whether it's someone I'm working with one-on-one or people I'm group coaching or training, that seems to be the formula. And one of the things that I'm very, very blessed to be able to do is work with a really great group of agents. And I know that sounds biased, but you know what? Look at the math. It is objectively true. We have a lot of very productive realtors in our organization. And so by just kind of rubbing shoulders and elbows with these guys and gals for the past 15 years, I've observed, some agents who are maybe thriving financially, but maybe not necessarily so much in other areas of their life. And I've seen the agents
Right.
who are winning in all areas of their life. And I've seen, agents struggle in all areas. But one of the things that I'm always looking for is like what that success leaves clues factor. It's like, okay, this person is winning in business, but they're winning in life. What's that all about? And I've always had an interest in that. And that's where I've kind of almost like a North Star I've been following for a long time. It's like, what is this thing? And that's where we've started putting some language to it and some models around the idea of the breakthrough method, this idea that you can work less, earn and live more by working in your sweet spot. I mean, I now have words to tag this stuff with that I didn't have, say, a year ago, but it's been an interest of mine for a really long time. And if you look at what I'm into, like everything back to the Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Work Week, James Clear Atomic Habits, like this whole breakthrough ecosystem for me is kind of the overlap of a lot of my interests: technology, personal productivity, working in the area of stuff that brings you the most joy and job satisfaction. Like there's a lot of different components to it, but all put together is what we're calling the breakthrough method. And I'm excited in this podcast to be able to explore it with both people who agents themselves have achieved this breakthrough, and also subject matter experts that maybe have an insight into a component of our program that might give some nuance and depth to our listeners.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned sweet spot, and I kind of want to just quickly touch on that. It's something that you enjoy, that you're good at, and what grows your business. Now, how can agents, or I guess anyone that's listening, identify this in their own careers? Like, what would be a way for someone to say, this is what is my sweet spot versus maybe not?
For sure. And I'm going to put a pin in that question and come back to it because there's something I want to talk about first, if that's okay. It's
go for it.
Why don't people spend more time in their sweet spot?
Okay.
Because I think a lot of people, we have an exercise, so maybe I'll answer both questions at the same time. Hey, this is my show. I can do whatever I want. Okay, guys, just relax. It's like the backseat driver guest.
Yeah, right.
It's we have a very simple exercise we do to help people uncover some clues around their sweet spot. And a lot of it is trial and error. One of the very first exercises I do with anybody I work with is getting them to do a resource review. And that is a audit of their time, their money, and their energy. And ideally, I love to get 2 weeks worth of data because there's a lot of, fluctuations in real estate. It's very rare that every day is the same in our business. But even just starting on a simple, let's review your yesterday. And when did you wake up? No shame on that, by the way. I don't care when people wake up. I care more about what you do with your first 3 hours being awake than when you spend them. What was your first few things you did from a priority standpoint? What did you work on? What did you react to? What were you proactive on, et cetera? And listing all that stuff out. And typically what we find is some of those things that we do are either energy giving or they're energy draining. And sometimes they're neutral, right? They're energy giving or energy draining, and sometimes neutral. And that's a clue of what your sweet spot is. Because if it's energy draining, I can pretty much guarantee it's not going to make the final edit of what your sweet spot is going to be. If it's energy giving, that is definitely a key thing to focus on. And so when we go through someone's day, and let's just say for argument's sake, they're spending 10 hours sort of actively or passively engaged in their work. There might only be an hour that day where they actually felt the stuff that they were doing in that hour was life-giving. The rest of it was either neutral or sucked the soul right out of them. So
yeah, I felt that.
yeah. You probably are feeling it right now, right, Adrian? You're like, why did I agree to do that?
Right. I'm like, oh man, this guy's rambling on.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh my God, answer the damn question, man.
But Braden, I do want to throw another kind of thing on that. You talked about doing these time audits. Like this is one of the tools that you have in this method that you're kind of building out and that you're using to help other people. Is this a one and done thing, or is this more of an iterative? Do you do this every year? Do you do this when your business is no longer serving you? Like when's the right time to be doing all of this, reflective navel gazing? And when is the time to actually just shut up and go do another open house?
Listen, if you had a navel like mine, you would gaze at it all the time. Okay. So just easy with that navel gazing shame. So it's a good question. I would say one of the things that I've learned, this is like, again, my self-discovery of my sweet spot, is my ideal agent is and this is no disrespect to anyone who doesn't qualify. It's just, I'm just being honest. And I think, all progress begins by telling the truth, right? My ideal agent is not a first year agent. It's also not a mega team leader with 75 people under them. My favorite client is an agent who's 5 or more years in the business. And that time frame is very important because the failure rate in real estate is reported to be 85% of agents fail within 5 years. So when you become a 5-year agent, in my opinion, you're no longer a rookie. Sorry, Adrian. I think everyone in the first 5 years is a rookie, but that's
all good. It's all good.
Approach on it. And you are now in a position where you probably know what you need to do. And I think that is, Vince, to answer your question, is kind of like two camps. There's the people who don't know what to do. And then there's the people who know what to do, but don't do it. And that's my favorite group.
Got it.
Because the reason why people don't spend more time working in their sweet spot, it could be like Adrian was alluding to, it could be maybe they don't know what it is. But I suspect after going through the resource review and kind of talking about it and understanding the concept at a basic level, you'd probably know what's in your sweet spot. The question is whether or not you spend any time there, or how much time, or is it consistent? And the reason why people don't spend more time in their sweet spot is very simply everything else gets in the way.
Right.
And it's kind of funny because if I sold the breakthrough method as getting rid of all of this other stuff, I don't know that it would be as appealing to people's aspirations as working in your sweet spot. Do the work that you love, that you're good at.
Well, you're running towards something instead of running away from something. That's what I'm hearing from this.
Yeah. But the truth of it is, it's actually about it's less but better, to steal Greg McEwen from Essentialism, the guy who wrote that book. And so my favorite thing is to come into an agent who's established, who's already successful, but they're successful because they have a great work ethic, a winning personality, and they're good at the job. But they don't have any time left in the day. They're absolutely maxed. And then I get to come in and help show them how to streamline things. And we can talk about sort of the 3 steps that we do to do that. But the goal is to remove things, not add things, so they could spend more time working in their sweet spot.
So that's things like delegation.
Sure. We'll talk about that for sure.
We'll get there.
And there's a story, I believe it was from 10X is Easier Than 2X or Be Your Future Self Now. I can't remember which one it is, but they're both Benjamin Hardy, Dan Sullivan books. And there's this incredible story about Michelangelo. And Michelangelo, he was in the sort of the prime of his career as a young man. He's doing all these crazy art projects, being commissioned by all these famous and wealthy people. And he just finished, to this point in his career, the biggest feat of his career, which was the David. Have you ever seen the David?
You know what? Not biggest. I might have.
So
I've seen pictures of it.
It's but do you know what the David is, Adrian? I want to expose you as being uncomfortable.
Oh no, I have seen the David.
Yeah,
yes, I have. I've seen it in person. Okay, yeah.
Have you actually?
Yeah.
You forgot David's.
It was very memorable.
Yeah,
life changing.
I'm sorry. I'm just like, I've obviously been to all these museums in Europe, and I'm not the biggest art fan.
Okay,
so it's probably like, oh yeah, like that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I want you to imagine for a second, Adrian, that statue started as a single
marble block.
Right.
Think about that. I know you're not a big art fan, but how tall was it?
Oh, geez. Like,
It was huge, right?
yeah.
Right. And from an anatomy standpoint, remember there wasn't computers or anything like that. Like how anatomically like accurate was like, oh, that's what a leg should look like in relation to a head relation. Like it's pretty
Oh yeah.
amazing,
It's amazing.
right?
Yeah.
And so it was amazing today. It was also amazing however many hundreds of years ago it was made. But when Michelangelo was asked, apparently by some dignitary around, like, how did you make the David? This is like, I get almost goosebumps when I say this next part, the punchline. I hope I'm not overbuilding it. He says, I didn't make the David. I removed everything that wasn't the David. Let that sink in for a second. I didn't make the David. I removed everything that wasn't the David. I couldn't think of a better example or story or metaphor of what the breakthrough method is about, because it's actually not about adding more as much as it is removing everything else so that all you're left with is the David, or in this case, your sweet spot. And I have a fascination with this when it comes to helping busy, overscheduled, overwhelmed, overloaded realtors who are successful on paper because they've done the deals in dollars and have the awards and accolades, but are actually not necessarily happy in their life or even frankly with their business. Remove all of the stuff that isn't the David in their life, if that makes sense.
So what's stopping these agents from not removing everything that isn't the David?
Yeah.
What is stopping them from not working in their sweet spot?
Typically there's three things we see. And again, remember, we're talking about agents right now that are 5 years or more in the business, are probably doing north of 12 transactions a year. They know what to do, right? I'm not talking about someone who's listening or watching that's 2 years in and doesn't really know how to run a Facebook ad yet or whatnot. They're figuring it out. This doesn't necessarily apply to them because they've probably got lots of time to learn how to do these things. But for the successful and stuck agent, typically the things that get in the way are three. These are my nicknames for him. There is the soul sucking, the mind numbing, and the trivial many. What are those? The trivial many is what I call the unnecessary. Mm-hmm. The mind numbing is the repetitive, and the soul sucking is the draining. And so our process, and it's very deliberately set up in a 1, 2, 3 step process, is that we want to eliminate the unnecessary. Then we want to automate the repetitive. Mm-hmm. And then we want to delegate the draining. What's left at the end of that process is often high value, high energy giving tasks that very well may be what's your sweet spot. And so that's the process that we take people through. And I've got examples of all three if you want to dig into it. The one that's most sexy that I get booked for to speak about is delegation. People want to and to be even more direct, people want to learn how to hire a VA. Like that's a topic people are interested in. My favorite topic is actually the first step, which is eliminate the unnecessary. And it's the one that is often like people dismiss it, like, oh, no, like let's get into the VA stuff. And I'm like, well, there's probably stuff that you do that you don't need to do. Right. Mm-hmm. Tim Ferriss has this great quote. He says, the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency is doing something well, but just because you can do it well doesn't mean it's important. Effectiveness is doing the right things. So I actually strive to be more of an effective person than an efficient person, because sometimes we can be really, really efficient at stupid shit that brings no value to our business.
That's a good point.
Right.
And I'll add to that too, Braden. So many of us, especially in the first 5 years of business, we're told you have to learn digital marketing, open houses, you have to be a networker, you have to be the mayor of your town, you have to have bus benches, you have to have all
start
these
a podcast.
I have to start a podcast. Wow, I'm feeling attacked right now. So it's really easy, to see why agents get stuck into that. Like, I just have to work harder. Yeah. I didn't get my to-do list done today, not because I had the wrong things on my to-do list, but because I just didn't work hard enough. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because there's a great irony to this, because I believe those 5-year agents, the ones who are no longer rookies, they're sophomores instead of freshmen or whatnot. I believe most of us in our first year to 5 years, we execute what I call the blue collar business plan. And it's a great plan. It's got 3 steps. You ready for this, Adrian? You want to write this down? Work harder,
I'm ready.
Work longer, repeat. Right?
Yeah.
Work harder, work longer,
Yep.
repeat. That is the blue collar business plan. And I know this because my family business is in construction. My Wheatcroft Construction has been operating on Vancouver Island since the 20s. And, you know,
What?
4 generations of construction, and the business will die, sadly, with my dad, because if you haven't seen my hands, they're very soft and have never
Very
seen
soft.
a day of manual labor in their life. But I've watched that in real life, like work harder, work longer. And you know what? It works. It really works
It does.
until it doesn't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's
It's like the David Goggins mentality, you know?
totally.
Bingo.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so what I've observed is this blue collar business plan, work harder, work longer, repeat, works really well. It gets you to that 5-year business birthday. But then you trip into this thing that I think it's another Greg McEwenism. He refers to as the paradox of success. The things that helped you become successful in the first place, ironically, end up becoming exactly the same things that hold you back from growing to that next level. And so that is where I help a lot of blue collar agents, so to speak, trade their collar for a white collar business plan, which has a lot more to do with having systems and processes and boundaries and values and whatnot, versus just, I'm just going to absolutely, you know, through sheer grit and determination, plow through this business. And the challenge is some people do the blue collar business plan for their entire careers.
Mm-hmm.
But you do reach a point where you're tapped out. You can't work any harder or longer. And what's worse is burnout sets in. So even if you're used to selling 25 homes a year, doing everything, that might have been easier to do at 25 years old. But at 35 years old, it's actually a little bit harder. And at 45, it's even harder. And at 55, it's exhausting. Right. And so,
Braden, I'm just going to interrupt though.
Yeah.
We are getting into sort of like a lot of sort of not so much anecdotes, but you're very high level. But for someone who's listening to this and they're saying, okay, I can kind of identify this with this a little bit. What would maybe a specific thing be that someone did for year 1 to 5 that worked, that is killing them from year 5 onwards? What would like a specific thing be for an agent in the business?
If you're watching this episode, there's probably a pretty good chance you're looking to free up some more time to do what you love, both personally and professionally. But maybe you don't know where to start. Don't worry, we've got you covered. Our breakthrough method is designed to help you get 10 hours a week back every 90 days. And the first step towards your next breakthrough is completing our resource review to see where you're investing your time, money, and energy. We've created a free guide with instructions and a template for you to use to complete the resource review. You can grab a copy at bradenwheatcroft.com/resource or grab a link in the description down below. All right, let's get back into the episode.
Okay, so I recently had a coaching session with somebody, and I'm going to answer your specific question with an anecdote, but there's a moral here.
Terrific.
I was recently booked for a coaching session. This agent was doing quite well early in their career, but they were fried. They were absolutely fried. And so we had the conversation, and they shared with me what was going on, and some of the hardship they were experiencing, at home, because they're always on their phone and their spouse isn't loving it, etc. And so we started talking about their value proposition. So I'm just curious, when I ask you the question, why should I hire you? Your answer to that is effectively your value proposition. And if I'm interviewing you and Adrian, I ask you both, why should I hire you as my buyer's agent or seller's agent? You're going to give me different answers. And that's your value propositions.
Yeah.
When I ask this person what their value proposition is, they say, I tell everybody I meet, I answer my phone on the first ring.
Interesting.
I like that. Okay.
So let's back up. Have you ever tried to get a hold of someone about something that's kind of important and you can't get a hold of them and it's really annoying and frustrating? Has that ever happened to you?
Definitely. All the time.
Absolutely.
Every day.
Every day. So if you were paying hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars for a service, and part of said service was first ring access, not just immediate access, first ring access.
Wow.
To that service provider, would that be something that causes you to go, you know what, that's pretty sweet?
Yeah, definitely. I guess my hesitation with that would be being able to provide that one ring service. you know?
Well, when you're
And that
brand new,
gives me a little anxiety,
yeah,
you know?
when you're brand new and you don't have any clients and you're on
Easy.
the upstart and the market's tough and you're feeling, like you need to get an in somewhere, it's not only is it easy, it might be mandatory. Like, what am I going to do to try to get some business today is the mindset of people in the first couple years of their business, right? And so that was actually a great strategy. This agent got very busy way quicker than what we would normally see someone in their level of experience. But that same thing that helped them get busy was the same thing that was causing all of this pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because guess what? When you have one client, easy. When you have 30 clients, not so easy. So there's the paradox of success. So what do you do about it? Vince, I think is kind of that. What do you do about it? Well, in this case, we had a conversation. Well, maybe we need to reevaluate and update your value proposition from I'm the person that answers on the first ring to here are my measurable, tangible results I get my clients, which are better than the market or the average agent. So we need to shift from one to the other, or as I think it's Marshall Goldsmith says, a business coach is, what got you here won't get you there. Right?
Bingo. That's it.
And I'm happy to tell you that this particular agent, not only did they make the shift, they ended up hiring an assistant. And I don't want to say too much with identifying this person, but they recently received a sales achievement that not many people do in their first couple of years in real estate.
Amazing.
Right.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that is Vince. I don't know if that's give you an example, but
that's a perfect, clear example. Thank you. I live in example land.
Yes. Yeah. Well, facts tell, stories tell, right?
So Braden, you kind of talked about like these traps and, people getting stuck. Now, is this a common thing that you're seeing in agents? And if so, like, what are some signs that people can say, like internally, like, am I stuck?
Yeah.
Is this something that they, like, what are you seeing in people?
Well, I'm going to just kind of circle back to a question Vince asked me that I didn't fully answer, which is like, is this a one and done thing? Right. And I actually, and I kind of say this like with a smile on my face, because it's like kind of built in job security for me, but I feel like this is a never done thing, because I look at this process. If you imagine looking at it top down, imagine like, the reduce, reuse, recycle little diagram,
the Mobius strip
there. Wow. Okay.
There's a name for it.
Okay. Well, the Mobius strip, for me, it's eliminate, automate, delegate, expand. Eliminate, automate, delegate, expand. So it's a cycle that goes.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at it top down, you can see those 4 arrows that go around in a concentric circle. But when you look at it from the side, what you actually see is an upward spiral. Because the first thing we do is we eliminate typically things that would fall into the administrative category, or we automate or delegate that, which then unlocks the next level, which is typically client service or customer service. We work hard on eliminating, automating, and delegating in that domain. And then that unlocks the next level, which is usually marketing. We do the same process again, which we unlock the next level, which is usually sales. We do that one more time and we get up to what would be referred to as leadership. Now, in 30 seconds, I described to you a journey that could take someone 5 years or a career. But, if we talk a little bit about my own personal story, I can tell you that in 3 years' time, I went from having I was at below level 1. I guess I was locked in the basement, the business owner burnout basement. And I've now unlocked administrative. I've unlocked customer service. I've unlocked marketing. I'm still involved in sales and leadership, but in a 3-year journey, I've managed to unlock a lot of these different levels.
Right.
So to me, it's a thing that's forever changing and evolving, Vince, because as your life changes, as your priority changes, like Adrian, you are, soon to be married. You didn't get married yet. You got engaged.
Yeah, this summer.
Yeah, this summer. You got engaged. So your life priorities are changing. Vince, you just welcomed your first child, you and your wife. Hope I'm not overtelling on the podcast. We can take the note. But Vince, your priorities were going to be similar to what maybe Adrian's were when you got married, but now your priorities have changed again.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's an ever evolving thing. So Adrian, can we circle back to your question?
Yeah. Do you want me to ask it again?
If you don't mind.
Yeah, no worries. Basically, we just talked about, obviously agents being in some form of trap
Yeah.
or, getting stuck in their business. And I kind of was just wondering, like, is this a common thing that you're seeing in real estate agents? Or, and then also what are some questions that people can ask themselves, that are some common signs that they are maybe trapped or stuck in their own business?
Yeah. So the common signs, I mean, they are varied and personal in nature, but what I see often is your spouse is mad at you a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
When your phone rings, you get a little shot of anxiety because you have cell phone PTSD from the COVID market. You're falling asleep at 11 o'clock at night in bed with your laptop uploading listings. You're not able to respond to inquiries on your listings in a timely manner. I don't want to set the service benchmark for people, but the previous team that I worked on, the Charlie Parker team in Nanaimo, they have a service standard, which is we respond within 2 hours, often in minutes. So you got to decide what your values are. But if you said, hey, you know what, my minimum level of service is I respond every 6 hours, and you're now responding in 9 hours, that's probably a clue.
Yeah.
Right. And what's interesting, Adrian, I found is that most people, they look at it from the perspective you've asked that question from, which is like, what are the signs in your business? And I actually like to invert that. And so what do you want your life to look like? Like, for example, if you want to play volleyball twice a week and you're not able to go play volleyball because you're writing offers or uploading listings, that is a sign. Right. Like I kind of throw it to the Michael Gerber, E-Myth version of this is like, the goal of your business is to enrich your life, not drain the life out of you. Right. And so in our 6-week group coaching program, the first lesson that we work on is actually understanding what your values are, what your goals are, short, medium, and long term, understanding how to create a financial goal that's actually truly meaningful, not some arbitrary bullshit goal that's based on Platinum Club or Hall of Fame or MLS goal. Like, those are all great achievements, but if that's your singular purpose in life, I promise you that will feel hollow very fast. Right. So we show people how to actually create a financial goal that's deeply rooted in what they want their life to look like, both in the day-to-day lifestyle, but also in their future. And we use that as the framework, or if you will, for building their business around it. Right. And so I would say first step is you got to know what you actually want. And then once you know what you want, then it's about deciding what does that look like in terms of a calendar. Again, Tuesday and Thursday nights, I play volleyball. Okay, cool. Put it on your calendar. Do you actually show up? Right? Movie night with your wife. Okay, cool. It's on the calendar. Do you actually show up? And when you show up, are you present? These are all the things that I think about from this perspective. And if your business is impacting the stuff that you truly feel is most important to you, you need to change the way you're operating your business.
Right. Now, does that come along with a mindset shift as well? Like, are you like, it kind of seems like you need to kind of shift your mindset, I'm kind of guessing, into more of a managerial role in your business. Is that kind of, would you agree with that? Or is there,
that's what it sounds like to me. Yeah.
I think that it's about understanding that, first off, let's just call it what it is. It is almost, no one's going to cry for us, by the way, but I think it's unfair what is expected of an individual agent to be competent.
Right.
You have to be not just understanding all the forms. You need to understand market trends. You need to understand Canva and graphic design and social media best practices and video editing and whatever the newest trending dance move is on TikTok. You need to be good at negotiating.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah. Okay. You need to be good at negotiating. You need to know where the hipster coffee shops are, what the crime rates are, what school catchment, what building construction. Like, there is so much that we have to know as individual agents. To me, it's absurd, the idea that someone is going to be able to do this at a high level all by themselves and still have a life. Because I get my fair share of pushback in the comments and DMs and emails. And I love it, by the way, because I love to learn from people's experiences. But the reality is, when someone says to me, yeah, bro, I did 45 deals last year without an assistant, and I'm like, hey, good for you. Do your kids know what you look like?
Yeah.
Are you, because I've yet to find the person that will sit down and go through 365 days of their calendar with me, who is doing 50 deals a year, doesn't have an assistant, and is thriving in every area of their life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a high bar. I'm not thriving in every area of my own life, but I have a process that helps me get a little bit closer to that every day.
Right.
Well, and Braden, I want to just pick at that thread a little bit, this idea of the calendar review.
Yeah.
It's very easy for us, to just say, oh yeah, we won an award, so we're feeling good about every other area of our life. For example, I love the idea of show me your calendar and I'll show you where your priorities are.
Yeah.
And I'll show you where you're actually winning. And if you tell me you're feeling healthy, but like you haven't done anything physically active in the last 3 months because it's been a busy spring market,
yeah,
there's an alignment issue there. So I love that idea of using the calendar as a yardstick rather than emotions or subjective metrics.
Yeah. And I would say like the wheel of life is a tool we use early in our process because we want you to both understand, where you are in these different areas, like family, finances, your hobbies, your interests, business, financial, all that stuff, and where you want to be. And what's interesting is not everyone has, again, this goes back to like, who are you? Like, what do you actually want? Even the two of you, I guarantee you, have different values, even though you work together, you co-host a podcast together, you're on a team together. Like, the idea of family being a primary driver. Like, if I'm being really honest, I value friendship more than I value family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're not going to go down a dark path here, but I don't have a very close relationship with some members of my family just based on my upbringing. I love my family and, blood thicker than water and all those things. But the truth be told is like, I value friendship. That is very, very important to me. So if I have no friendship on my calendar, I'm a sad version of me.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is where it's like being honest with yourself. I'll give you another example. We've known each other a long time. As you know, I've been doing different like speaking stuff for a while. And last year I had to take a little bit of a break because I had a mental health catastrophe. More on that later. But coming into this year, I had my very first paid speaking opportunity, and I got it last November. And when I got it, I was like, I felt very validated. I'm like, awesome, this is great. And then I got a second one and I was like, oh, cool. And then I got a third one and I was like, oh man, I'm kind of dreading this. and it just so happened that it fell over the Christmas holiday. So I did a lot of reflection and I realized two things from that reflection. One, I'm a homebody. Truth be told, I'm a homebody. I don't like being away from home. Second, according to my therapist, I'm codependent on my wife. But I like to say that as I don't like being away from my wife. I just don't.
Yeah.
And I realized that if I was to play this whole, professional speaker thing at its extreme, it's like that might be 100 to 150 nights away from home.
Yeah.
I don't want to be away from home 15 nights a year, not 100. And so, you probably have noticed, like I've invested heavily in my office space. I've realized, you know what? I do want to educate, inspire, inform agents, but I want to be able to, I'm on a mission to be an incredibly impactful virtual presenter so that I can provide, maybe it's a Zoom meeting that you are excited to attend, you're engaged during it, and you leave energized with an action plan. And then I get to close my laptop lid and go home and make dinner for my wife at the end of the day. That to me is important to me, more important than the celebrity feeling of being flown business class all around and staying in hotels. That is a values thing, Adrian. And so I understand that that's what my values are. So it's up to me then to act accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that what people can kind of expect? Like the podcast Breakthrough with Coach B, is that kind of, what you're going to, step by step, take them through that journey and
yeah. Absolutely. So one of the values of the team that I've built, my marketing team, is I said, we are going to give generously and freely of our information. Because truth be told, like this is, I believe in transparency. Like agents at our brokerage are getting our program at no charge. And people will be able to enroll in the 6-week Breakthrough Academy at a charge if they're not with our brokerage. So just be very transparent about that. But I want to give away all of the information from the program for free to everybody. Partly because I know that people don't pay for information, they pay for transformation. right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm, every episode of this podcast, we're not going to be talking about the entire cake. We might be talking about an ingredient of the cake. Like, for example, again, VA stuff is kind of the sexy part of the program people want to learn from. Do you know what a VPN is? Do you know how it works? Do you know about cybersecurity? Do you know about where servers are? Like, do you know any about that? So, well, we're having a tech expert come in and basically talking about how to assess what a VPN provider gives you, how to use password apps. Some are better than worse for working with a remote team. Where should you be keeping your cloud-based storage stuff so that it's, not subject to the Patriot Act and things like that. Like, that's a probably extremely painfully boring topic for the vast majority of people. But you know what? If you're into this thing that I'm into, this idea of letting go so you can grow, that's actually going to be an important episode for you at some point, because when you are working with a remote team member, whether that's someone in the Philippines or Colombia or somewhere else in Canada, you're going to want to make sure that your cybersecurity is tight.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll be unpacking broad things as well as more narrow. One of our first guests is a friend of mine, Remax in Edmonton, and he was the classic blue collar business plan, successful on paper, in terms of having lots of sales, lots of deals and dollars, but wasn't feeling successful in other areas of his life, hired an assistant and ended up almost doubling his business and did it in significantly less time. Like he sold 100 homes the year after he hired an assistant.
That's incredible.
And that was, where was that? Actually, Edmonton.
Yeah, listen up. It'll be probably the second episode. So for me, like the category is like, I'm calling them self-actualized agents. These are the agents who have kind of, even like without the breakthrough methodology, have had their own breakthrough by using best practices from it. Or subject matter experts like the tech people, or I would love to have Greg McEwen, who wrote Essentialism, as a guest, because he's all about, eliminate the unnecessary, less but better. He would be able to speak to very specifically a part of our program.
Yeah.
Well, I will, I'm going to jump in though. Like we all, again, this is the anecdote guy. The real life examples, personally, that connects with me so much.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing I've really appreciated about just even this interview and talking with you, Braden, is you have an example to back up everything. And for an agent to take that and to run with it, I think it's brilliant. And it also really helps for someone like me who literally needs someone to say, these are the 3 things I did in my business, rather than sort of the bigger why and the how. Like it's a specific action item thing. So I think that's a really valuable thing that you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Can I riff on that for a second?
Sure.
So I took a program about 4 years ago called Brand Builders Group, which is different than the company that runs my social media, which is Brand Ambition. Shameless plug. But Brand Builders Group, I was probably in that year their best student in terms of attendance and understanding their content. Their best student that did nothing with it. I could regurgitate the information that I was learning from the various presenters and coaches to a point where you'd almost think that I was a coach in the program. That's, Vincent, I've talked about that, like referencing and recall on books and stuff. It's just kind of a thing that I'm good at. But I did nothing with it.
Freakishly good. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. I did nothing with it. But there was a thing that clicked with me when the main guy, Rory Vaden, he said, when it comes to building personal brands, and I think this is true in real estate to a degree as well, says you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. You are most powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. I once was a burnt out, bottlenecked business owner. And through pure survival instincts and just being fed up with being fed up, I finally fixed a problem that I was probably in for, honestly, at that point, because I think my breakthrough journey started 3 years ago. I would say I spent a decade being the cliche, the blue collar business plan: work harder, work longer, repeat. And it was starting to take its toll physically, mentally, romantically, all sorts of things. And so I had to change. And then as a result of that, I've done these things, I've learned these things. And now I've realized I've had this sort of aha as a guy who's been coaching realtors for, a decade. I can learn about certain things and I can talk about them like a teacher might talk about something in a textbook, but it's never really felt like it's in here. And this content, I can speak to it with not just being genuine and with authority, but like I can literally share personal anecdote after anecdote after anecdote, because I have failed forward so much to get to this point, that I've never actually spoken about anything in my career where I have more conviction about than this. And
Wow.
I've lived it, and I'm living it now, and I've helped other people live it too. And so I'm just feeling very
Inspired.
grounded in this methodology. And I know it sounds like, who knows, play this back to me in 2 years from now when I'm talking about selling homes in the metaverse, and you can say, haha, loser. But the truth is, I feel like this is my life's work. I feel like this is my life's work. And
that is very cool. I feel like not very many people get to have that feeling in their life.
So
and
true.
I don't know if I ever will myself. So I'm a little jealous of you right now.
If you take Breakthrough Academy, I'll help you get there.
Okay. So Braden, with like the average listener listening to Breakthrough with Coach B, like, what are you hoping someone listening to the podcast, episode what are they going to get from it? Like, what are you hoping to educate them on or change in their life or whatever?
Yeah. So if I was to get hit by a bus today, which I hope I don't, but if I was, I've already said this to enough people that I hope this happens. Vince, you're now on the record. You have to vouch for me. This is what it would say on my headstone. It says that, I think this is a Zig Ziglarism, is that our inputs shape our outlook shapes our output, and our output shapes our future. The stuff we put in changes the way we look at things. The way we look at things changes how we act, and how we act changes the trajectory of our future. And
I think you're at your character limit for your headstone there, Braden.
That's okay. It's fine. It'll be a non-fungible token or something like that. So I hope that whoever is listening to it, my number one hope is I hope that it starts getting them thinking a little bit differently about what their goals are, why their goals are what they are, because a lot of people fall victim to what I call copy and paste goals. You're like, oh, my buddy got Platinum Club, therefore I want Platinum Club. They get Platinum Club and they're miserable, and they wonder why. It's because it was never your goal in the first place. It was someone else's. And I hope that people get interested in the concepts we talk about, whether it's articles on our website, YouTube videos, our podcasts, etc. Because I believe if they start a media diet of breakthrough content, that will shape the way that they look at their business, and it will change the way that their results and future looks like. So I know that's a very grandiose answer to your question, Adrian, but that's honestly my hope, is that people get, I was going to say addicted. That sounds too negative. They get very excited to consume the content we're putting out around this subject matter.
Braden, what comes to mind for me when you say that is that ism, when you change the things you look at, the things you look at change.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, that's it in a nutshell. This is all wonderful, high level, esoteric. We're flying high with this. We're like we're on a SpaceX flight right now.
Yeah, that's right.
But if an agent who's listening to this episode today, in this moment, had to make one small change today, what would you recommend that they start with?
I would recommend that they download our free resource review guide, because that is the first step in the process we take everybody through. And so whether you're enrolling in the program or you're self-implementing with all of the free information that we're putting out there, it is the first domino in a sequence of many steps, but it's the first step. And the resource review has 3 exercises in it. And again, if you check out, hopefully by the time people are seeing this, we'll have the how-to videos on YouTube and whatnot. Is understanding first and foremost, what is an hour of your time worth? Which is I love how much, how I don't want to say hate I get, but I love the debate I get when I talk about our time having a value, because it a lot of interesting conversations usually follow that. But understanding what the value of your time is. Secondly, having a clear understanding of what the value of different of tasks are in your business. Like, is an administrative task as valuable as a marketing task? as valuable as a client service task or a sales task? Like what is more valuable in your business? And then the third and final one is that time audit we talked about, where you review what you do in the course of your day. You assess sort of roughly what is the energy feeling, like was it energy draining or giving? You will also, from the previous exercise, understand sort of what's the value of that task in your business. And for those math friends, don't worry, you don't have to be able to add up higher than 6, but we have a score from 2 to 6. The lower the score, the more likely it is you need to let go of it. The higher the score, the more likely it is you need to keep doing it. And so you'll be able to do a complete self-assessment within a few days of what you should be letting go of to grow and what you should be spending more time on. That's the first step. If you're a Remax agent and you're coming in for a complimentary coaching session, I would ask you to do that first. If you are enrolling in the Breakthrough Academy, that's the first thing that we're going to get you to do. It's actually pre-work in the program. If you're a Richard Robbins coaching client, that's one of the first things that I get people to do. So it is the first step for everybody.
It sounds like it's
awesome.
that awareness piece. To quote the great G.I. Joe, knowing is half the battle.
Wow. Is that a G.I. Joe quote?
I think that is.
That's sweet. I love that.
We'll have to fact check that one.
Yeah.
Vince has the best quotes.
I honestly
I've never heard of before.
I thought that was an Abraham Lincoln quote, but I think most quotes are.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, that was my next question, was that, is there any other resources available? And I think you kind of covered that pretty in depth.
Yeah.
That you guys are offering a bunch of those free resources for everyone kind of consuming all of this content. So that's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Our website, just for the record, Adrian, would probably be if you could only go to one place to try to find everything else, our website would be the place to go. It's bradenwheatcroft.com. Very easy to find. Just Google my name. And you'll find it. But, again, whether it's on YouTube or our podcast or articles on our website, we're going to be not producing a newsletter per se in the sense of like a morning brew, sort of like synopsis newsletter. It's going to be more topics from the breakthrough methodology just to help people deepen their understanding of it.
Great.
Right.
Again, we want to be incredibly generous with our information. But we are going to charge for implementation because that's where we feel like some people want to have someone guide them through the process, which I love. But if you're a self-determined implementer yourself, then fill your boots. I love it.
Yeah. Now, and kind of as a last question, is there any kind of action you want someone listening to this specific episode to take as of right now, other than going to the website, other than downloading these resources?
I guess I have to say the whole like and subscribe and hit the bell. Do I have to say that anymore?
Yeah.
All of it.
No, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to unpack this with me. There's so literally, this is all I think about. And there's a lot we didn't even scratch the surface on. And maybe probably I'd say more tangible, like step-by-step how-tos. But hopefully today, if anyone's interested, and if you find yourself feeling burnt out and also, a little embarrassed because you are successful on paper, people look up to you and say, wow, when I grow up as a realtor, I want to be like you, but you don't feel successful yourself because maybe you are dropping balls or there are cracks in the foundation, or you have some challenges in your personal life you can't attend to because your business gets in the way. I would strongly encourage you to just lean into everything we got, because there's guys, I guess maybe I'll end with this, is that there's nothing in my mind more powerful than regret. And there's nothing more sad than regret. And I think about reverse engineering regret a lot. And I've got this little, actually, Vince, we were together when I bought this coin.
I remember that.
Memento Mori, which is Latin loosely for remember death. And so I think about death, as morbid as that sounds, a lot, because I want to try to design a life that if I was to get hit by that proverbial bus. Also, can we just say it's really sad for bus drivers? They're always the people that are like killing people.
Yeah, they take out a lot of people.
Yeah, what's with that? Anyways, but if I was to get hit by that proverbial bus, I would want to know that, you know what? I'm living a life that's in alignment with what my goals are. And maybe it didn't last as long as I wanted it to, but I'm grateful for the life I did have. And that's something I think a lot about. And if you'll indulge me with one little anecdote, Vince, the thing that I've observed in my broker owner role that I just can't unsee is very successful agents based off of deals and dollars. I know if people are listening, they're not going to be able to see this part, but sitting in my office, where is it here? Oh, I can't. There you go. There's my office chair. Sitting in my office crying because they're so upset, because they're so stressed, because they're so broke, even though they've made a lot of money. And like, I get it. No one's going to cry for the person who made $600,000. But the reality is suffering is relative. And there are a lot of people, like I talk about like this Jack and Jill story, and Adrian, I promise we'll land the plane. You know, Jack is this successful agent who wins all the awards and all the accolades, is on podcasts being interviewed about why he's so successful and how do you do it, Jack? You know, and he's on panels at conferences, and, you know, he's the man about town, right? But what people don't know is Jack's also on his second failing marriage. He's estranged from his kids. His doctor's telling him if he doesn't get his shit together, he's going to have to pay some serious repercussions, and hasn't actually swung a golf club, even though when you ask him what his hobbies are, he says golf. Hasn't swung a golf club in a couple years. And that's a sad story, but what to me is heartbreaking, and this is what I see. And by the way, I like Jack probably isn't a single person. Like, that's a pretty depressing picture, but there's a little bit of Jack in all of us. I promise you. I see this all the time in my role as a broker owner. We're dealing with hundreds of agents, a slice of humanity, and we are good at hiding this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so Jack's story is a sad one, but what's devastating is Jill's story, because Jill is family friends with Jack, and Jill just started her real estate career. And when I asked Jill, what does she imagine her business going to look like? She says, well, I've known Jack for 15 years. And when I grew up as a realtor, I want to be like Jack. And of course, due to confidentiality, I can't say much, but what am I actually thinking? No, you don't.
Yeah.
Jack
run away.
Jack doesn't even want to be Jack.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, if I could take this to a very like high aspirational level, that is what I really am trying to actually do. Is get people to figure out what the hell they want their life to look like, and build a business as a vehicle to get them there, and hopefully not get distracted by what everyone else is doing, because it's so damn easy to do in this business.
Yep.
Okay, I'm done. I promise.
Thank you, Braden.
Thank you, guys.
That concludes. That concludes all our questions, I think.
Vincent, you good?
I'm great. I mean, I have so many quotes and anecdotes to digest after this. You know, Braden, I think all of this comes back to this whole project. The whole theme of this mission comes back to when I first met you, I don't know, 7 years ago now. You said, my goal is to help people build a business that they love. Mm-hmm. And that's been the constant theme. The technology has changed. The tools, all of these things has changed, but that's when you say that's your life's work, I really believe it. Like, if you had a tattoo, that would be your tattoo.
I love that.
Don't show us.
Yeah, no, I won't show you. And now Adrian's gonna be mad because I said I was done, but I just want to riff a little bit on what you said there, Finn. Which is I've been saying for years, as you've just said, and thank you for that. That I'm on a mission to help people build a business they love owning, not one that owns them. And people have had a hard time kind of latching on what does that mean. And so this year I've essentially have found, like, I've distilled it down to a very specific punchy thing. I want to help you get 10 hours a week back while still growing your business. That is the goal. I want to help Adrian get 10 hours of his week back every 90 days while still growing his business. And as soon as I started verbalizing it like that, like, hey, what, and actually this is a question I'm going to ask you because I want to ask this at the end of every interview with guests. So let's start now. Adrian, what would you do with an extra 10 hours a week?
Yeah, I knew this question was coming, I feel like, and I thought about it, and I still don't know if I have an answer. I think I'm at a crossroads in my life. You know, I'm getting married this summer, and so I kind of have this like thought process of like, or this almost like foresight that I think a lot of what I would want with those 10 hours is going to drastically change. So I feel like right now I would probably say, you know, play some sports or hang out with some friends. But but I have this like hesitation of saying that because I feel like I know that maybe those 10 hours or what I want in those 10 hours is going to change.
So but for 2025, what would you do with an extra 10 hours a week?
Extra 10 hours a week. I don't know. Work in my real estate business, maybe. I don't know. Not joking. But yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough question. I don't know if I have an answer. I'm very bad at introspection, is what I've realized through a lot of these conversations. And it's not my strong suit. I have friends that are great at it, and I think that what makes me a bit more of a better podcast host is, I'm good at getting people to talk about their introspections, but my own introspections, not so much.
No, fair enough. Well, that's called job security for me in my line of work, Adrian. So thank you. Fair enough. And just so you know, answering the question, I would probably spend more time working is not a bad answer. Because if you're spending more time working in your sweet spot and it's energy giving and you're enjoying it and it's growing your business, that's awesome. Right. What I probably will never hear asking that question is I want to spend more time doing FinTrack. And I want to spend more time doing compliance, and I want to spend more time reading strata docs. Like, I don't imagine hearing that part. So there's no shame on actually, in fact, in our model, part of it is giving some of that 10 hours back to stuff that grows your business. You got to do that, right? Vince, same question for you, my pal. What would you do with an extra 10 hours a week? I mean, sleep right now because you've got a baby, right?
Coach, it's a lot simpler than that. Yeah, it really, for me, if I had 10 hours, it would be just spending with my family. Whenever I get a free hour, I'm like, oh, I should work on this. I should do that. I would love to be able to just go for a hike with my family.
Love that. Awesome.
If I could do that every 90 days, even, oh man, for 10 hours, sign me up.
All right. Well, you're signed up already. Both of you, you're required to take the program. We're doing a pilot run in March. So thanks, guys. Appreciate your time as always. And this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Braden.
Thank you for watching Breakthrough with Coach B. If you're ready to grow by letting go, check out our website, bradenwheatcroft.com, for all of our free and paid breakthrough resources. Your future self and your loved ones will thank you. All right. Catch you in the next episode.